welcome again to another episode of The World's Finest. Alright folks, this time we're going to be doing a more single-issue focused episode. We're going to be delving into a unique kind of one-shot comic about people related to the Batman and Superman family, but also an unlikely pair you might have expected. Joining me today for this momentous occasion is someone I've really wanted to have on the show for a while now. He's absolutely spectacular in the kind of content he brings out. He's an inspiration to you and me. The geekiest of all gentlemen.
Hi!
It's Ian. Notified from his high-pitched squeal is how he communicates.
I demand a bowl of green M&Ms before I continue. I'm gonna go all
okay,
they will
be faxed. All right, Steve. Oh God, what is wrong with me?
Yeah, I'm insulted. How dare you compare me to Steve Baxi?
I haven't even spoke to Steve today.
It's cool. No, we're gonna keep going. I don't want to restart. I want to keep going.
All right, okay. This is just how we're going. All right, Ian Harrington. What are we talking about today?
We're talking about a single issue comic book that's not like particularly important or even that special from 7 years ago from the old 52 Batman Superman Batman book. And that is issue number 77. And I wanted to talk about this because it's a team up between Damian Wayne and Supergirl, and that's adorable. And I like it. And it's a forgotten issue that more people should know about. So there.
Yeah, I think I've known about Damian and Supergirl as kind of like the crush between them, but I've never seen like the source of where it originated from. For a long time, I just thought it was just like a shipping that just happened because like they were two characters and like they were put together. But knowing this was actually, having read this now, I understand it way more and I find it much more like endearing and
Well, see, it's interesting because maybe I just don't read enough with Supergirl, but I've never seen anyone explore the idea that Damian has a crush on her since this. Outside of fans.
Yeah, well, I guess. Yeah, that's like something I think we should talk on because this is super, super popular in like the fanfic circles. Like, especially with how I've seen people write Damon, it's nearly always mentioned. It's kind of scary.
Joshua Williamson started something. This is also just worth noting. Josh Williamson, is doing the Flash run right now. He did the button with Tom King and Jason Fabok. Recently.
Oh, really?
So like he's kind of risen up in the ranks in DC over the years from doing just this short little one-off.
Well, I think you should because for what this is, it's kind of a really good example of a comic you can hand to someone as like, just have fun with this. It's a piece of entertainment, and then like you're done. So I guess going into this. The basic premise is Supergirl arrives on a crime scene and is basically just told, because this is happening around about the same time where JMS was writing Grounded, and because I don't like that story, I kind of like the cop's jab at it, where after the whole new Krypton stuff, the civilians have kind of lost a bit of faith in the super family. And Supergirl's kind of told at the crime scene, look, you go fight your aliens. This is a job for, like, people who can handle it. So, in response, Supergirl goes looking for Batman. And because Bruce is, like, dead at this point, quotations mark, Dick's busy on Justice League business, and Tim's elsewhere, she has to team up with Damian to amazing results.
Pretty much. And Josh Williamson writes a really good Damian. It's fun. Like, I love the scene where we're introduced to Damian in this story, and he's, like, hanging by a bunch of chains, Killer Croc's getting ready to eat him, and Damian's just like, I picked the locks on these chains 2 minutes ago, and then he just busts out and beats the crap out of Killer Croc.
Yeah, which is super satisfying, because, like, in Battle for the Cowl, Damian kind of got, like, punked on by Killer Croc. I mean, it was like really like horrible characterization of him, like kind of missed the point of Damien. So seeing him here just completely kick his ass is really satisfying.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is just like the things I missed from the old 52 that we're now getting kind of back to with Rebirth, is just stuff like this. So yeah, Supergirl shows up, and her and Damian go off to try to solve this murder. They, find some clues at LexCorp, go to a Halloween party for LexCorp in college interns, and then find the killer there, and it turns out it's Scarecrow. Scarecrow gasses Supergirl. Supergirl tries to fight Damian because she's hallucinating, and ultimately they stop Scarecrow and save the day and bring him back to Arkham, and Damian and Dick have a hilarious conversation at the end, and I love it.
Which is just, I can't thank you enough for just giving me more Damian Dick stuff, because that's like my favorite duo in comics. And even just a panel just make me happy. So seeing Dick like give him like, oh yeah, you got a crush on her, just like something like that, it's just really endearing to me.
And I mean, it's really perfect for the inverted dynamic that Morrison set up for Dick and Damian, to have the serious Robin and the jokey Batman. And so you got like, Batman sitting there pestering this kid, and this kid's like, stop, drop it. I know thousands of ways to kill you, Grayson. Thousands.
It's absolutely, and I like Bruce used to say that if a girl hits you, it means she likes you. Well, that's really true for Bruce Wayne.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. It's a really fun issue, and it's one of those things that just, like, by its very nature has kind of been forgotten about. I don't think it's ever been reprinted in anything. And it's just super fun. It's like, in a weird way, it's kind of a predecessor to just the way that Damian treats John now in Super Sons.
Yeah, really.
There's this great interaction that he and Supergirl have in Metropolis as they're, like, looking at these bodies in the morgue. And he just tells her, like, use your X-ray vision. And she's like, I'm not a tool from your utility belt. You can't just order me around. And he's like, yes, I can. My father did it to your cousin all the time. It's like, well, that just because there's precedent doesn't mean you're allowed to.
It is really good to see, like, the dynamic that Batman and Superman have be viewed from, like, their successors, and then, like, how it applies, like, different types of personalities in the same kind of roles. Like, what happens when you have a Superman figure team up with a Batman figure who isn't as forgiving as Clark, like, who will point them out of their shit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like that. And it's just kind of funny that, like, Supergirl feels the need to go to Batman because, yeah, she's not, like, the cop at the beginning kind of has a point. She doesn't really know what she's doing when it comes to, like, tracking people down and doing, like, detective work. Whereas if this were a Superman story, he'd kind of, I don't know, Clark's an investigative journalist. He'd know kind of where to start.
Yeah.
So this ends up just working.
One thing to that effect, which I do always, this is just pure headcanon, but one of the reasons why I like when Batman and Superman team up, and Batman kind of is a better detective than Superman, even though Superman realistically could, like, read every single super detective book in the world, or, like, every single, like, learn everything Batman knows in, like, an hour, is because I like the birthright explanation where, like, Superman isn't good when he's around death. Like, it, like, really unsettles him, and it means he can't be objective around it. Like, if he's at a crime scene, just the mere sight of a dead body is, like, hard for him to focus on, and I like that as, like, a reason why he needs Batman's help sometimes.
That's really interesting. I've never heard that.
Yeah, it's because I think in, like, Birthright, when he, like, because when things are living, it's implied that it's a soul he sees. He sees, like, the most beautiful thing, and then when they die, it's like a black hole, and it makes him, like, physically sick. So when he's around, like, dead bodies and stuff, it, like, unsettles him. He can still, like, report around it, but it's just he doesn't have that kind of precision and expertise around it that Batman would. And I guess because it's the same biologically, Kara would kind of have that. So it makes sense to me, even though the super brain it's a nice way to get around that problem.
And I like the opening page of Kara as she's looking down at the bodies, and she does just look absolutely mortified. I mean, you know, it's weird because it's in Metropolis, but you know, it's looks like Gotham. There's rain, there's, you know, big shadowy buildings, and it talks about, you know, this is what it's like in Suicide Slum. And that's, I don't know, a lot of that just works to that tonal effect of, you know, you don't think of the super family in these kind of situations at all. Like, when was the can anyone name a famous image of Superman in the rain? Yeah. It's like really, like, you can pinpoint just about 1,000 famous Batman panels where it's raining, but nothing like that. Nothing to give those grim tones really happens with the super family. So it's a neat way to kind of juxtapose things and just give visual clues, and I really like that about it.
Yeah, and it helps make Metropolis feel more like a real city, especially because Metropolis is so often, at least compared to Gotham, like Gotham has its own character, but Metropolis really doesn't. And I like when writers use stuff like this to, like, I love the idea of Suicide Slum where they say it's not Gotham, but it's still pretty bad. Like, I like that idea of not everything has to be Gotham, but not everything has to be pitch perfect the entire time. Like, there's layers to it, and I really appreciate whenever I see people try and add that into the Superman mythos, because I feel a lot of people get, like, scared messing with the image of Metropolis as, like, this beacon. So, yeah, I like that much.
Yeah, me too. Also, just, like, really artificially, you know, superficially, rather. I like Damian being little matches. That's adorable.
Oh, my God. Why does Damian always, like, dress so cool? He has the best Batsuit, he has the best Robin suit, and now he just dresses like a little badass.
Damian's got a good sense of fashion, man. It's all about it. Yeah, like, I don't know, when they go to this Halloween party and Damian's just wearing, like, this white pinstripe suit, black shirt, red tie, red shades, white hat, red stripe. That's really, really cool.
I want someone to, like, do a fan art of him and Matches Malone and both on the cover dressed like that, with Bruce with his pencil mustache.
Totally. And I also like the little moment that you got someone at the party's like, whoa, that is one little freshman. And, you know, it's just funny to see, because Williamson writes a really good Damian Wayne. Like, as Kara's complaining about how stupid her costume looks, she looks like Ralphie from Christmas Story. She's complaining how stupid her costume looks, and Damian's like, tried to find something appropriate, more matronly, or that of a streetwalker, but they were fresh out. It's like, he's such a little ass!
I guess I'll ask you this. I feel like it is really rare to find people outside of Morrison and Tomasi who can write a good Damian. And this really makes me feel there's, like, a really specific way to write Damian, and I feel like the other way where he is supposed to be a brat, but he's supposed to be a charming little shit. Like, he's a little shit you want to get better, you're not annoyed by. And I feel like a lot of people who say they hate Damian are only really exposed to, like, the ones in the animated movies or, like, some of, like, in the Teen Titans stuff where he is just, like, insufferable. But, like, here, and when Morrison writes him, and, like, some of the Batman and Robin with Tomasi, you really get this full-fledged, interesting character who can also be a badass, who can also be hilarious.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that this just shows that it is possible to write Damian Wayne well. It's just it takes a certain level of finesse, and not everybody has that ability. Like, you gotta... I feel like to write Damian Wayne well, you have to be able to look back on when you were a kid and thought you were a badass, and then be able to make fun of that. Like, you need to be able to, like, look back on yourself and realize when you were insufferable. And certainly not everybody was, but I feel like everyone had a moment as kids when they were insufferable, and Damian's, like, kind of always that, but there's still that underlying heart of gold thing for him.
Damian reminds me when I was little and I was just like rocking out to Dragon Ball Z AMVs. Like that's just the kind of version I see of Damian. Is just like he's that picture of how I view my life. And I think everyone has that kind of moment when they were younger that they're kind of embarrassed by, but they're also kind of endeared by. So yeah, definitely. He's a very specific. I think in a lot of ways he's like Bruce in that way, where he has a voice. Like you either have it or you don't. Like Damian Wayne, when he's written well, is always Damian Wayne. Like he's never. I don't think I've seen people write him well, but differently. Like he's always, even Tom King in the recent issues, he writes this Damian, and it's nice character consistency.
Yeah, I agree. There's a very clear and distinct voice for Damian Wayne. He's not like a Silver Age Hal Jordan where he's just a really flat character that anything you do with him is basically right. He is, this like a Damian Wayne line when you see it. Like you don't even like you could give me 3 quotes from 3 different characters in the comics, and one of them can be Damian, and if it's a well-written Damian line, I'll know it right away. Even without the even without that, I got this.
I feel like that one is necessary every Damian appearance, at least one per issue.
Sure. The sigh, is all so necessary. You can't write if you. All right. So yesterday I posted a stupid joke about the button on Twitter, and people are like responding to that like, "What the hell? I don't get it. What's mean?" And I'm just like, you clearly have not been paying attention to any of Damian Wayne's appearances. Clearly, this is on you.
Oh man, and like Tom King responded to you on it.
Yeah, it was a good feeling.
Excellent shit posting. Bravo, brave soldier. Bravo.
I will say, I wish this stood on its own a little bit better, because you opened with saying you could just pretty much give anybody this, and you're not wrong. I feel like anyone could read this and they're not going to be left with a million questions, but like, with how connected this all is to Blackest Night, like, I don't know who Reactron is. I'm not a huge Superman guy, so I don't know, or Supergirl guy for that matter. I have no idea who Reactron is. So
yeah, same here.
Him showing up means nothing to me. The fact that it's like alluding to Blackest Night also is like, oh, well, that's dated. So I don't know, I just wish it was like a little more general kind of fears or something, that it didn't have to be connected to these big event kind of things, but
like if it was Brainiac or something.
Just something like that would have probably worked a little bit better. But I suppose...
But then again, I
suppose it is kind of all connected to Blackest Night for Scarecrow's motivation, so that kind of makes some sense.
Yeah, that's where I was going to say next, is I appreciate what they did with Scarecrow here, because I think that's an interesting way to take him. One of my friends who was, he's a big Green Lantern and Scarecrow fan, he always wanted to like write follow-up where Scarecrow tried to like hunt down Sinestro and like force him to make him a Yellow Lantern because he got so obsessed with the power. So I feel like there's a lot of idea in that concept of Scarecrow getting a Yellow Lantern ring, where I'm glad that it's like played up a bit more here, but I agree it might have been better saved for a different story than this one shot.
Yeah, and it's funny because I remembered this issue. I remembered Damian Wayne and Supergirl had to team up to solve a murder. And I remembered the ending conversation with Dick as my favorite part about it. I did not remember that Scarecrow was in this. I did not remember that this had connections to Blackest Night and stuff like that. And that just... I don't know, I feel like that kind of speaks to what doesn't quite work about this. I feel like when you write one-and-dones, especially in this series, which was meant to be kind of more stories that didn't necessarily have to be in continuity, you should go for more general kind of timeless things, because then you leave yourself open for reprints as opposed to, well, all you're going to get is this issue.
Yeah, this is really continuity steep with like references to Grounded. This obviously happened in a very specific time when Dick was Batman, which I guess that's the one thing that you can't really avoid because you want to get that dynamic. But everything else around it is kind of superfluous that didn't need to be there and just kind of.
I mean, honestly, you don't even need like Dick to be in the bat suit at the end. Is the thing, right?
Yeah, he could be Nightwing.
No, not even Nightwing. He could just be out of costume, and it would still function.
Oh
right?
Yeah, you're right.
You know, when she shows up, she's looking for Batman, and then she goes, "What about Tim?" So you could just assume that Dick's not even really known for being a great detective. So honestly, it would make sense to kind of skip over him in her head and go to Damian.
Yeah. Yeah, especially for like the general non-Bat family members, they wouldn't really view him as the Bat guy.
So it's just one of those things, like, not to rewrite the story, but I do see why this like maybe hasn't been like long lived, like why more people haven't heard of it now that I've reread it.
Yeah, because where would you put it?
What?
I mean, like, where would you put it? That's what I'm. Yeah, to argue your point now, it's like it is really like. You couldn't really put it in like the Batman and Robin series, or like it's like one of those trades, or like a back issue or something, I guess. But then it would just seem really off.
I don't know if I don't even know if this series got collected in trades or not. And you know, it's weird for me as the guy who's always like, "Oh yes, more single one and done stories, please, please, please." That's what comic books are for. To be saying something like that, because knowing what I know, especially even when this issue was new on the stands when I originally got it. Like, I have no trouble following along with this, but I think kind of the point of one-and-done stories is to be able to go, oh, here, enjoy this, and I can just give someone a single-issue comic book. And now that I've reread this, I don't think I could really do that because there'd just be too many lingering questions about things. Like, what I'd like to do is be able to go, oh, here you go, Scarecrow's one of Batman's villains, he uses fear gas. And that would be all the context you need. In retrospect, I don't really think you could do that. It's not like that makes it a bad issue, but I feel like that definitely kind of explains why it's kind of forgotten.
Yeah, it's like, it's not really affecting what the story's going on, but it is, like you say, it just makes it hard to give to people who would be interested in the story because people know Supergirl, people know Damian, and it is just like a cute little concept which like helps both characters get an extra dynamic. And I feel like one shots focus on the characters and then like plots kind of second are the strongest because that's what you take away the most from it, and that gets you interested to read more.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Especially because like the mystery aspect of this I like, because I think it's a unique place to take Kara. She doesn't really deal with that a lot, and especially for Damian, because if you like kind of track his progress around about the time this is happening, is he's just starting to like listen to Dick about being more detective focused, whereas at the start he's like, I don't need to be a detective, I just need to punch things. So it's nice for him to get that like he solves a mystery. But apart from like, you don't really need them to fight. Like that when she's like mind controlled by the Scarecrow gas, I really had to kind of stretch my disbelief that Damian didn't just die immediately. Especially when she's got the red eyes and she's like launching at him. Like, you think like she's going pretty much full power.
Yeah, fair. I don't know. I like Damian's reaction. This is gonna hurt, and then he's just trying to dodge and get out of her way. And,
yeah,
you know, she's drugged. It's not unbelievable. Damian is pretty well trained at this point. You know, League of Assassins kind of stuff. And he's just trying to, like, I like that he doesn't beat her. He just gets her to snap out of it, which is good.
Yeah, it's not like he doesn't become like the worst examples of the Batman Superman fights where he just like incapacitates them instantly with like a kryptonite or something.
Though I will say, since she makes him come to Metropolis on his own without like flying him there, it wouldn't have been unreasonable for Damian to pick up the kryptonite ring or something while he was out. or while he was on his way.
I can't. I guess something that's that though, which I guess this is just another headcanon. I want to get your thoughts on it. I always kind of see Bruce and Tim as the prep guys, and Dick and Damian as the jump in and wing it.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, so I feel like if this was Tim, and he suspected like Tim and Bruce are just paranoid anyway, so they'll bring anything. But I think Dick would just be like completely go along with it just because he's nice, and Damian wouldn't bring it just because he's kind of got that Vegeta thing where he's like a crutch. He wouldn't need it. He's so full of himself. He thinks he can take on a Kryptonian without it.
Okay, now I just want Damian and Vegeta to have a crossover, and my life.
Oh
would
my
be
god!
complete.
Yes. That would be amazing. Well, like in some of the Superman issues, John has I think it's like an anime poster. One of them I saw it like a while ago, but one of them I think looked like a really like small image of Goku. So maybe John watches Dragon Ball Z and then introduces that to Damian. I just find that like that'd be a really cute image.
I could see it.
I guess I want to kind of bring up. You mentioned earlier this is kind of a good precursor to John and Damian's relationship, and I agree. Would you have liked to see before Super Sons, Kara and Damian have more teammates like this? Maybe even like a miniseries.
You know, I don't know how old Kara's supposed to be in mainline continuity.
I think at this point she was supposed to be recent when like she first landed on Earth. Like she hadn't been there for like a while, and she was more like 16, 17.
Yeah, and Damian was like 10, 11 at this point.
Yeah, I'd say 11 because it's been like after RIP, it's been almost like a year.
So the only reason I'm going to say no is because I like the idea of Damian having a crush on Supergirl, but I feel like if you put them together on like a recurring book and you're going to keep Damian having that crush, he's either going to get annoying or you're going to have to make Supergirl really creepy. And I don't like it's fun in isolation, especially with Damian, you know, this little kid who attempts to be such a big grown-up with his stoicism. It's fun in isolation for him to be that way. If you keep exposing him to that, you open him up to just become kind of a creeper, kind of, you know, unlikable. And if you make him not unlikable, you kind of have to make Kara just, I don't know, many 17-year-olds, 11-year-olds that can get together. Like, you know, it's a weird thing because, you know, 6-7 years isn't that big an age gap once you're later on in life, but when you're a teenager, that's a lifetime. And so that's just, it just creates a weird dynamic, so I wouldn't want to see that too long term. Maybe if Kara were like 14, 15 and Damian were 11, but as soon as 16, 17 is where it starts to get really, really weird.
Yeah, definitely. The later on thing, though, made me realize I'd love to see a issue set in the Batman 666 timeline where older Damian meets Kara.
That could be fun. I could dig that.
And, like, maybe, like, he's at that point, she's just kind of... I don't know how you write it, but I'd like to see Damian that far gone. Still kind of had, like, a soft spot. Not, like, romantically, but he remembers, like, you were good. You were a good person. And, like, it kind of... Like, he spares her or something when he's on a mission or something.
Yeah, I could see that. Fair enough. I don't know, I'm just... it's interesting to look back on this now, reading Super Sons, which is a book I highly recommend to people that's on the stands now as of this recording. And it's a lot of fun, and so this is kind of, you know, an interesting precursor to that.
Definitely, especially with how Damian, like, starts off initially, and kind of still at the end as well, but more jokingly, with like working with the alien, which I think is unique. I think he's the only member of the Bat family, regardless of some versions of Bruce, who calls the Kryptonians aliens.
Which I would not be surprised. You know, he's kind of got that
Like I can't remember. Maybe Jason, but that's
I've
about
never
it.
seen Jason say anything like that, so I wouldn't even know.
Yeah,
It definitely is in character for Damien to talk about them that way, given how, like, he's got this whole importance thing complex going because of Talia. So I could see it.
yeah,
Um, Damien always needs to be humbled. I feel like a good Damien story has him be humbled in some way, shape, or form, and this does with him, barely surviving in an encounter with Supergirl.
and that's kind of a problem with why I do think a lot of writers fail to capture Damien as like. I feel like he's a character who kind of doesn't, unfortunately, have the long staying power of like being like how like Dick Grayson will always be the first Robin, or like even Tim Drake will always be like the default Robin for like most media. I feel like Damien, because he has a definitive arc where he needs to be humbled, you can't have him keep making the same mistakes. And I feel that's what a lot of writers do, is they just make him fall back on too many of the old tropes. But at the same time, you can only have him, once you get him to a place where he is okay at everything, he kind of stops being Damien.
Maybe, I don't know. It's hard to tell. I think
Yeah.
that he kind of regresses back to that point every so often, and that's natural for his character to be a bit regressive from time to time, and to always have to kind of relearn the same lessons. Because he's a kid. I don't think
Yeah.
it really helps that he is that young, because kids are horrible about this. They'll learn something one day and then just immediately go off and do the exact same thing again. And maybe that makes him unsympathetic in some people's eyes, but to me that's just realistic for kids.
Definitely. And it really kind of helps. One of the things I appreciate most about it with like Grant Morrison is just always this podcast, folks, is just basically a Grant Morrison circle jerk. Every episode, I somehow find some way to praise this bald Scottish man. But Grant Morrison really kind of got how to reinvigorate Batman and Robin in the 21st century, because a lot of people's main criticism of Robin is, oh, he's so young, this unbelievable. But Damien is like the perfect answer to that, where you can have a kid Robin but still make it totally believable. But then you also have, because he's got the hit girl thing, where like you don't doubt his competence anyone, but it's almost like scary how competent he is.
I know thousands of ways to kill you. Thousands, Grayson.
And I believe him. I believe him.
I remember I was talking to my friend Bobby. I was talking to his younger brother one day. This was years ago. But I was like talking about how I just did not find Robins intimidating. He's like, so if I were dressed as like Dick Grayson Robin, you wouldn't be scared of me? Hell no. What if I was Jason Todd Robin? Hell no. Tim Drake Robin? Hell no. What about Damian Wayne Robin? I would not fuck with you for a second.
Oh. Oh my god. I think a part of that helps that a lot is the trope of, I guess this is just something I've picked up, but like looking at the openings of this issue, Damien always seems to be chained up by villains and then like break out with like an awesome comment. Like the Professor Pig thing, that I think that was the first time that really sold me like, oh shit, David's a fucking little monster, is when he wakes up and he's like, whose neck do I have to break first?
Oh, yeah, I love it. It's great.
And when he turns to Supergirl and he's like, son of Batman. And I'm just like, okay, I get it.
Yeah, just so much attitude. Just so much. Like, we haven't talked much about the art, but I really like the way that the artist is drawing Damian and just everything here.
Yeah, this is really well drawn.
Alegarza, Garza. Like, I love this panel of him, mostly in shadow of the hood. He's got like this freaking evil little smile on his face, and that's great. I like the way he's like talking about X-ray eyes, and he does like the hand goggles thing. That's really cool. One thing, who's the letterer on this? I got to go back and forth and back and forth. SWANDS Swans, just a single name, I guess, like Prince. I really like when Kara is under the fear toxin, and Damian's trying to reason with her. His word balloons, like he's saying something and Kara's hearing something completely different that's just part of her delusion. And I really like the effect that the letterer, or maybe the artist or both, did here, where you've got like the first one really good example of it. You got the first part of the word balloon that's got kind of like a darker grayish shading on it, and it's what Kara is hearing from this Reactron guy, and it's like, I'm gonna kill you, super blah blah blah. And then you've got the actual thing that Damian says, like, fear toxin, you need to break free and get control, all that stuff. That's a really, really cool and subtle effect. That just, I don't know, it communicates a lot. I like it.
Yeah, definitely. And especially, I love when you get stuff like that, because it's the kind of thing that really is only done best in comics. It's something the medium excels at. Like, the fact that you have a word balloon and you can manipulate it is something, like, I love whenever that's played with. It just, like, gets, like, the geeky comic book fan part of me just, like, really
because
happy.
It doesn't work. Like, you can play two different kinds of audio in a movie or something and have, like, you know, one's the thing that people think they're hearing, one's the thing people are actually saying, and, like, you can either have one thing said first and the actual thing said after, or you can play them at the same time, but it's never quite the same effect. And in comic like that, it just your brain just naturally picks it up better. And you obviously couldn't do something like that in a novel, which is great.
It's just this is just a really solid issue. And I guess, like, the whole series as a whole is just full of these great little one shots. To kind of, like, I don't know, because I haven't read as much of this as you have, like, in terms of the series. Are there any other members of the Bat family and the Super family you feel would be, like, a cool, like, little team up?
You know,
like, if you were asked to, like, write one, who do you think you would go with?
For me, I'd have to. I would kill to do a Super Sons issue right now. What Tomasi is doing in that book is just too much fun. As far as, like, other team ups that, like, would be fun, but I wouldn't be the person for it. You know, Connor and Tim always had a strong relationship. I would love to see just... Can we do a Super Pups book that's a spin-off of Super Sons, please? Can Ace and Crypto just have their own ongoing? Is that a thing that we could do?
Like, we will pay for this. We have petitions. Like,
I don't know. Jim Gordon and Lois Lane would be a neat team up. I doubt anyone's done anything with that. That could be fun.
Oh, that would be actually really cool.
So I don't know. There's endless potential. I'd dig it.
Just call the Crypto and Ace book The Goodest Boys.
Oh my god, yes! Yes! I will kill at least 7 people for that. At a minimum of 7 people have to die in order for me to get that, and I'm totally okay with it.
We do not consult or advise the deaths of specifically 7 people. Any higher or any less is a different subject matter entirely.
Oh man. I don't know, man. I'm not sure I got a lot else to say about this. I'm always amazed how much you can talk about a single issue of a comic book, but it's just a fun issue. It's adorable, and I recommend it, generally speaking, to people who just have, you know, working knowledge of the DC universe is, I think, all you need here. So this is a fun issue to pick up. You said you were able to find it on Comixology?
Yeah, of course. It's just the standard prices for single issues. Like, I think in dollars, it should be around about, like, $3 or something. Exchange rates and stuff. But yeah, it's easy to pick up and well worth it in my eyes. This is just a really fun time. It's really, like, endearing to how well it gets the characters right in a way that makes it enjoyable to read without having to, like, compel you to read, like, a longer narrative or something. It's just, like, a good time. If you like Damian or you like Supergirl, I feel is kind of a nice thing to have in the back of your head. So whenever they do interact, you have a kind of a nice bit of context and even just a nice little bit of headcanon to
Yep.
build up, which I know a lot of people do love. I guess before we wrap this up, like just talking on the fanfic aspect of how this issue's kind of born that, I do feel like this has kind of hit like a core for people because in as so much as the way like Damian is a character that you can often very high in, like just on the character concept, it's hard to find him relatable just because of like, how outlandish his backstory is and like how specific that is. But once you get to the actual character, like you said, he's a very specific snapshot of people at that age, when you are the edgy, rebellious preteen. And I think the reason why this issue is kind of like spurned such a good fan following is everyone's kind of had that crush that's out of their league. Like the older boy or girl who's just so cool and like you kind of like hanged out with once and then like you just always like you just kind of played it off as cool afterwards. And then like Dick's playing like the big brother or like the friend who like is nudging your elbow about it. I feel like that's a really human and nice thing to have, especially for a character like Damian who is so often like filled in darkness. Like his whole future history is about him selling his soul to the devil, like Jesus. So it's nice for him to have like a humanizing moment here, and I feel that's what a lot of people have picked up on.
I agree. Gotta love Damian. Gotta love Damian. Even if you hate Damian, you still gotta love him.
That is now a requirement for everyone who has listened to this for this long, talking about a single issue. I can't thank you enough for coming on to do this with me, and it's been an absolute pleasure. You always find like little nuggets and gems from the DC universe that just it's all good to read, and I can't wait to keep doing more.
Not
of these
a problem.
with you,
I'm
man.
excited. It'll be fun.
Definitely. So is there any place for folks who want to listen to more of your stuff where you can plug it?
Yeah, go check out Geeky Gentleman, Sid Part2's channel. Every week we got, 3 episodes up on a variety of different things. I imagine by the time this is posted, we'll be done with History Month and we'll be going into Holiday Month. And I personally hate Christmas movies and stuff, so if you're like me and you can't stand them and you just want to hear me complain about being forced to watch them, come check that out. Anyway, just 3 videos a week of Geeky Gentleman, weekly comic reviews, weekly trade review on my channel. So just tons of content out your ears. Always worth checking out. Follow me on Twitter because sometimes I post some silly shit.
The silliest shit. We'll be sure to leave Scrooge here's the links in the description. It's good stuff, folks. You should really check it out. I sincerely advise you. So yeah, this has been a blast, Ian. I guess we'll just wrap this up now. As always, we have been the world's finest.
And I'm
Alfie.
Sid Part2.
And we will be seeing you next time.